Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Our guest today is an image consultant with 13 years of experience in colour analysis, beauty makeovers, personal styling, and has helped men and women all around the world to achieve a better version of themselves. And today she's going to show you how to use images to create confidence. Please put your hands together and help us welcome to the Mental Detox podcast our good friend Ann Whitaker.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ann.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I really love the red color on you. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, beautiful. Well, 13 years of experience as an image consultant. How did you get into this industry, and how has the use image to improve your confidence?
Okay, so I actually first had my colours and image done 20 years ago. I was working in a London office. Somebody walked in looking amazing that didn't look amazing the week before.
Yeah.
And I was one of the girls that ran over and said, "What have you done?" And I went along to see a company over there that I later became a consultant for. And it just changed my life. So I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I struggled in the morning to get ready. I was one of those people that had like 15 different outfits on before I walked out of the door. And it gave me a set of rules that I have followed for the rest of my life, basically. So it showed me the right colour shadings that worked, using a colour wheel right behind.
Yeah.
But it also showed me the styles and shapes. So when I go shopping, I know what suits me. 6 years after that, it had stuck so much in my head. I went and trained to be a colour consultant. So went back to England. I was living in Tanzania at the time, did all my training, and I've been doing it for 13 years.
Wow. Just out of curiosity, because I like to shop. Did you know the big difference, like after you've, like being an image consultant, do you see the wardrobes look different? Did you buy even more, or actually your costs, be a little bit lower because now you know how to, using those color and how to create the image? Did you notice the difference?
A massive difference. So like I said, before I would actually struggle to buy things, but I also had a wardrobe full of things I didn't wear, the stuff you get out and you go, when you know what suits you, when you know what colors you're buying, it gives you that filter. So you're literally walking in and going, well, that's not for me, that is. And then once you know image as well, you can then go, right, is it the right fabric? Is it the right pattern? Is it the right shape? So it narrows it down. So you don't need as many clothes, because we only wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time.
The Pareto principle.
But it's true. Men, not as much, because you tend to be more functional. But women, most women have a lot of clothes. And you'll have a whole load of things in your wardrobe that you're not wearing.
I know,
and chances are they are actually wrong for you. Or you're combining them wrong. And when you know how it all works, you don't have that stuff in your wardrobe any longer.
Talking about the 80-20 principle, I structure my wardrobe based on the 80-20 principle. I've got about 30 pairs of jeans. They're all the same. There's two brands and that's it. I've got every shape. And then I just put one drawer of the 80% that I wear all the time. And so it's my 80-20 drawer, and the other 20% are a little bit thicker and they're better at winter. And I just circulate the drawers. And it's the same with my jackets and my ties as well. And I've said to my customers in the past, hey, just go throw out all the things that you don't wear and just leave the things that you do wear.
And I tell my clients exactly that. Go through your wardrobe when I first do classes with them. So if we're doing colour, get rid of the things that are the wrong colour, but also don't leave yourself with a wardrobe that means you've got nothing to wear. So there's no point right now throwing a whole of your clothes out and you can't shop.
Can I ask a question? And my wife will probably clip me across the ears. Is black a colour?
I know you're going to ask this.
But excellent. Does black suit everyone? No.
And my wife always tells me, she goes, black is not a colour.
Yeah, because he has like 80% like black in his closet. I'm just like, that's really boring. Can you have something else?
It's very European. It's very Italian. Although I have no Italian blood. When I went there, the men were wearing black and they were handsome.
Yeah. And
I know the fact that they're handsome.
Yeah. We always say to our clients, we only have 4 seconds to make a good impression when you first meet a new person. So I just wondering, what are the big mistakes people make when they dress down or too casual in their personal or business? And what's the differences that you see when they dress up for their personal and business life?
So exactly what you said, whether it's online or it's face-to-face, we have seconds to make that impression. And people will judge you based on that. And it's really hard to lose that first impression.
Yeah.
So they'll always think of you as the messy person, the person that's not clean, or the very smart person, whatever it is. So it's really important to make certain that you're kind of always on. You know, you've always got that first impression going. And it sounds hard, but it's not. Once you know the rules, it's actually a lot simpler.
Yeah.
But what happens is people judge you better. So they look at you, and it's about always thinking how you want to be perceived. That's one of the things I talk to my clients a lot. So whether it's business, so let's use two scenarios. One's you're at a barbecue with some friends.
Yes.
And one you're meeting at a networking meeting.
Mm.
And it's, you know, reasonably high level business. You're going to dress differently for those two scenarios. Well, hopefully you're going to dress differently for those two scenarios.
Yeah.
Because you want to be perceived differently by the audience you're going to meet.
We've seen this. There's a very popular speaker at the moment. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. And he dresses down. He wears Vans, sneakers, and like most Americans, he wears very bad cut jeans, and he'll put a jumper on stage and often a beanie. Now, I believe he can get away with it because he's got the results, but a lot of other people model that dressing down, and it doesn't pay dividends for them.
No.
And they go into an event, like we're talking about a business event, and they lose all credibility immediately.
Yeah, massively. And it is, people are going to judge you. Now, he's got a presence.
Yeah.
He's got a brand, and he's sitting in his brand all the time. He's also I would say I talk about personality types, and that's why I work with my clients. I find out what their actual personality is and get them to dress their personality, not play dress up. There's a really good chance he's what you call dramatic. So a dramatic can take that, they can hold that much better than anyone else. You know, as opposed to somebody who's classic. If you think about the early James Bonds, they were classic or dramatic classic. The latest one is Daniel Craig is much more natural. He doesn't look as good in a dinner suit. Yeah, a dramatic can literally push that stuff out further, and Gary's probably that. I mean, he comes across definitely like that.
Well, he's aggressive, and he uses a lot of exotic language.
He's dramatic. He's going for shock. He's going for difference.
And it pays off for him.
Yeah.
I was in Malaysia last week, and I went more smart casual when I was speaking on stage, and it was a very different response. So when I had my tight jeans on, my sports coat, and a linen shirt with a collar, the response was, I felt I was very approachable. Where I'd been on stage in Taiwan, group of 500, and there was a little bit more distance with that group, but I was more formal. And there was a difference between wearing a grey suit and a darker blue. And I could really feel there was a difference in the level of connection.
Yeah, because you're dressing slightly down. So that's back to what I was saying. It's thinking about how do you want to be perceived, and it's looking at the word appropriate. So the word appropriate is the biggest thing I can teach people. So be appropriate for who you're speaking to. So your audience, where you're meeting them. What do you want out of that meeting? Sometimes we want to be more formal. Sometimes we want to be more approachable. The weather is another one. Obviously on Zoom, that's not there any longer. But if you were meeting somebody on a hot day and they had a jacket and a beanie, you'd be going, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. Yeah. Likewise, if it's freezing cold and they didn't have a jacket and a beanie, you'd be going, what's wrong with you? Why are you in a little top? So it's thinking all the time of who are you talking to and the message you're going to get, but it's about being yourself and not playing dress up. And a lot of people in the world will play dress up. So they dress for situations rather than they're still themselves thinking about the situation. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, and for our, friends and followers there, they want to know more about, those image and color. What kind of practical idea you can share with them by using the image to create more confidence in their life? Okay.
I'm going to touch on color quickly. Yeah. So there's going to be colors. So everybody sits in one of those sections behind me. It is something you have to have done face to face. I don't believe it can be done accurately online.
Yep.
But there's going to be outfits that you will always get compliments in. You will feel better. You will feel, if you're online, you will look more alive online. So there's a good chance that those are good colors for you. Not always, but there's a good chance. When we're going to image, like I said, it's about finding out, knowing who you are, representing that person, but also thinking about your levels of who you're talking to. Like I said, those what I call the W's. Who are you meeting? Why are you meeting them? What do you want out of the meeting? Sometimes it's different. Where are you meeting them? When are you meeting them? We dress differently for an evening function than a morning breakfast.
Yes.
And the weather. Think about your personal grooming. You know, men will judge people by their shoes. I know my husband does. It's one of those simple things. Women can quite often judge by handbags and jewelry.
He can
handbags.
Come and have a look at my collection of R.M. Williams boots.
But they do. You know, you kind of got that. It's inbuilt into us. We've got to find out somehow where somebody sits, who they are. And all we can go by initially is visual clues. So one, of course, is smiling and posture. But it's like everything you wear is like a sentence. Different items of clothing are different words in there. For women, makeup's a big thing.
Yes, 100%.
You know, being made up is huge.
How do you feel when you see women going out and not wearing makeup?
Can I be honest?
You got to be honest.
Angry. Like, I feel so upset. I'm just like, I believe every woman should, you know, maintain the best. You know, even when they're at home or whether they go out or work, I think that's very important. It's just it's not for somebody else, but just for them confidence as well. So when I see the woman didn't looking after themselves, let them go, that made me feel very frustrated and angry.
So Nini and I, we had a daughter and a son.
Yeah.
And every time we went to see the gynecologist, it was always a wonderful experience for the gynecologist. Because Nini's hair was done, the makeup was done, she'd been to the beautician, the hair was done, and she always looked beautiful when she was going in to see the gynecologist. And we looked around and there was a lot of other women who just went in and they hadn't represented themselves at their best. They hadn't represented their future child at the mother's best. And you'd looked around and it was a really disappointing experience because I'm thinking here is this gynecologist. Him or her has been to university for 7 to 10 years to specialise in here, and people don't even make it a nice experience for the doctor.
All respect.
And then that was the first thing. At the hospital after the children were born, a lot of women just let themselves go. But Nini kept her routine. She got up in the morning. The nail polish was done straight after the surgery. The hair was done. The makeup was done. So she looked beautiful for both of our children. And it was a very different experience. We looked around the hospital and the women had just let themselves go.
It's a really easy thing for people to do.
And for me, you know, we're always on show. It's that first 4 seconds. And you're judging people and it's an unconscious bias. And we start to think about that person. You can't get that image out of the mind. Yeah,
that's true. I always use the example of, imagine you're starting work, you're in an office and there's a new person starting work. You know nothing about them. You don't get to talk to them. All you can do is judge them as they walk past you or judge them across the room. Day one, they turn up looking a mess. They're not appropriate for your office, whatever that is. So let's say it's smart. So they're not smartly dressed. They're not made up. Their hair's a mess. You're going to judge them. Next day, they're going to turn up and maybe they're perfectly appropriate. But you're going to go, oh, made an effort today. I can see you realize we're a smart office. And you're going to continue to have that thought about them because that's how you first saw them. If you reverse it, first day they're perfectly appropriate, they look great, they fit in perfectly. Day two they arrive and they don't look appropriate. Their clothes aren't ironed, their hair's a mess, they've got no makeup on. You kind of go to yourself, oh, I wonder what happened. She must be having a horrible morning.
Yeah.
You cut them slack because you believe they're the smart person. Whereas the other way, you don't cut them slack on the first day. You've decided that's who they were.
When we were working with Emirates Airline, we had to go through an image and grooming department. And that was part of the uniform. For the men, you had to be cleanly shaved. If you had a moustache, it had to suit your face. Because not every man looks good with a moustache. Some men look so handsome with one. like my dad. It suits his face. And we had to make sure our hair was done for the men. We had to make sure our fingernails were done, and for the women. And as the leader, as the co-leader of 17,000 people, I had to check the image in uniform. And we had to constantly remind people to represent the company and themselves at the best. So majority of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, everybody's image and grooming was really good. You'd do these flights. You'd go from Dubai and you'd land in Manchester, or you'd land in London Heathrow. And then you'd say to the crew, let's go out for dinner. Now, half of the girls who showed up, they looked as beautiful outside of the uniform as they did when they dressed in their civilian clothes. But the other half, you couldn't even recognize. They would rock up and look like an old granny. And you'd be like, who are you? Are you like our crew? They're like, oh yeah, we flew together today. We just finished our shift an hour ago. And you'd look at them and you go, I don't even recognize you. So in their business attire, we've seen how well they can present and represent themselves. But when they get into their civilians, you don't even know who they are. You cannot recognize them.
Different personalities will sit differently with that. So somebody who's very natural will want to be like you were saying. But it's about, again, that level. So taking it up a bit. So it's okay to be comfortable. Just not quite as comfortable as some people are when they go out.
We even saw it created conflicts between the cabin crew. Because what would happen is these people were left behind. They were literally left behind in the hotel lobby because people could not recognize them anymore. You'd be sitting at dinner and you'd be talking and you'd look at the person and be like, do I even know you? Like, you'd keep asking them, I'm so sorry, what's your name? What position were you on the aircraft? And you couldn't recognize them. It was an interesting
because you'd seen them the first way.
Yes.
So Ann, for our friends and followers, where will be the best place for them to follow you, to find those, the good work that you've done?
So I've got a Facebook page, which is Ann Whitaker Official. It says Ann Whitaker Style and Business, but if you actually type in Ann Whitaker Official, you find me, or my website. So I've just launched an online class. I do a lot of my work face-to-face, but I've obviously just decided to go online, and that's on www.annwhitaker.com.au, because I'm here in Australia.
Well, we'll share these details below, and we appreciate you sharing this. I believe that still today, 4 seconds to make a good first impression, and that first impression lasts. And from our research in image and deportment is your clothes, your hair and your makeup cover 95% of your body. And so it's a big first impression. And so make sure you head over to Ann's website and take some key learnings away from this Mental Detox podcast, but also learn from the best in the field. So Ann, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your knowledge, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Well done.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes, brilliant.
Wonderful.